What's up, y'all? Welcome to another review by Ryan. Happy Sunday. It is Sunday, September 4th, and I hope you all are having a wonderful day wherever you're at in the world at the time you find this reaction. And today's reaction, we'll be reacting to the 10th episode of RWBY's Queendom. The title of the episode is Mirrors of Darkness. So, obviously in the last episode, we did have a brief migration into the dream of RWBY, which, thank goodness for John, we were actually able to get her out of it relatively easier than I was expecting, primarily because I would assume that her dream had not rooted itself in itself, as deep as Weiss's is. And I'm going to also assume that the reason that she didn't get too caught up is because, one, there were several questions I had. First off, what are the complications of a dream happening within a dream? And second, if the hold of a nightmare grim on another person's dream within another person's nightmare would actually have the same weight or not. And it looks like, for whatever the reason might be, or maybe it's because John had also been affected by the nightmare grim of his own, that he was able to get her out of that and break her away. And then, of course, we did see that Blake and Yang were able to come up with a way while they were visiting the place that they had been casted away to. And ultimately, by the end of the episode, we saw that they were able to get back to where Weiss is. Weiss is in complete disarray right now. She's trying to get a grasp of everything, and now we have a great showdown that's getting ready to play out between Blake and Weiss. And of course, because she's a faunus, and we know that Weiss has very strong feelings in regards to faunus, while she also seems to be particularly confused by everything, which is what we discovered with how the treatment of these things that weren't really grim, but they weren't really nightmares, or they weren't really the white thing either. There was definitely a lot of questions to be asked there, but I do believe now that we have arrived at this point. We've gotten RWBY out of the situation, and we are now at what I believe is to be the final showdown with Weiss. I said this last episode, and I want to repeat that sentiment again. It's time for fighting, it's time for answers, and it's time for us to go ahead and settle this situation with Weiss once and for all. Regardless of how you feel about how the story of this season has gone, whether you have been a fan of the changes, a fan of the Nightmare Grim, or have absolutely hated it, I believe that no matter which of those sides of the equation you fall on, we all fall in the same equation with one thing, and we're ready to see this get resolved. We have spent a long amount of time dealing with this Nightmare Grim. I will say that even for me, I knew that the episode was going to strongly focus around Weiss's inner struggle that she had with how she looks at the other girls, and especially how she looks at Blake and, being with the white thing and this and that. But now it's just come to the point now where, for me personal, I'm ready just to have fighting. I'm ready to see really where I hope the show is going to shine. And also, for any of the animation naysayers, we will see how the animation holds up with these multi-layered fight sequences. And speaking of that, there's one thing I want to say before we start. Well, two things I want to say more before we start the episode. One, in regards to the animation, I will absolutely admit that the animation has dropped from the beginning of the season to where we are at now, which is part of the reason why I'm looking forward to them giving more focus back on this multi-layer fight sequence that's hopefully getting ready to transpire now. And I hope it's not just a 1-minute fight and then that's it. Because again, one thing that we'll all say is, even with the original, when the fight sequences happened, they were dynamic and they were engaged. Yes, they were rough around the edges, but normally you'd have Casey and her songs kicking in, and it was always meshing very well. I have greatly enjoyed the music here, but because of the fact that we've kind of flip-flopped back and forth with which part of the story we actually want to be focused on, which is why I was very worried when RWBY fell into her own dream state. That confusion has led to people having different feelings. When we do have a fight sequence, we're still trying to grasp straws at what just transpired with one story element, and now we're in this big showdown on the other side. And it can definitely throw people off, and that has sadly translated to poorer than expected ratings for the show. I have been a firm defender of the show, that I feel that this is a show that was needed to revitalize the RWBY franchise, but I have also admitted, I admitted it in the last episode, I think I've admitted it for a few episodes now, and I'll absolutely confess it today, that where we started to where we have definitely dropped in quality overall. I said the show started at a 9 and 9.5. I was very impressed with how they did it, but that was also because I remembered everything that happened in the original, so I still had that bond and connection for the girls. Now, show's not eclipsing a 7, and I think that that's pretty much where we're at now, where I doubt that I'm going to drop the show lower than a 7. I'm not going to rule it out, but I doubt it. But I also acknowledge the concerns of the community, that there are many glaring issues that have existed. And I want to say that with the entire story of the RWBY universe, the story has always been all over the place. It really, truly has been. You know, it's never to me been a overly well put together story. And since we know this isn't a complete rewrite of the story, but they're just adding this on, we automatically go into this based on the story that we were given. And it was never an overly well put together story. So it didn't really have that going in its favor. But there are definitely some things they could have done better. And we've definitely had too many multi-layer distractions because they were so excited about this project, and I know they were excited about this project, but between probably confusion with where they wanted the Nightmare Grim story to go, on top of the fact that you have Rooster Teeth sinking the damn show themselves because they clearly don't support the show even though they claim they do, it just didn't help the show have as successful of a run as it should have up to this point. But that's a whole nother conversation that I'm not going to have part of these reaction videos. You're welcome to message me if you want to talk more about if we feel that this show was given a right to survive in its own way or not, or how you feel about Rooster Teeth or any of that. But that, for the purposes of this is solely based on the reaction to the episodes. Conversations about Rooster Teeth can wait until later. So let's go ahead and get this started, though. The last thing was the rating of the show. So sadly, and it really pains my heart to say this, but like I just said, RWBY is suffering from a number of issues right now, and just between last week and this week, the rating has dropped again. It dropped actually 0.8. Last 0.7. Last week it was at a 6.92. This week it's at a 6.85. So that is an interesting drop, and I think some of the drops happened because of whatever episode we're about. Well, actually, no, it's from previous episode. It can't be for today's episode. But that stands out. A majority of the community is starting to give more 6s and lowers for the same reasons that I said. And for me, it's a shame. I kind of agree. Again, I'd slightly give it a little higher of a score, and of course this is a collective average, but I do completely understand the frustration that is leading to this continued drop in the score, and at this point, I'm just ready to see how we're going to end it, and then I'll give my final thoughts once we have gotten to the end of the show. As a reminder, this is a 12-episode show, so that does mean we are almost at the end. The planned end for this show is September 18th, so we are almost at the end, and I'm sure we'll all have our opinions when we get there. So let's go ahead and get this video reaction started. Let me pull it up here. All right, and let's get this started in 3, 2, 1. Grim allergy. Oh, what? So you're going to try to use... Oh, it is so... Seriously? You're going to force... Oh. So she did become her own nightmare, so that's why she looked like that. I mean, it's a good idea, but you're going to have to maintain a lot of control of yourself. So are all the girls going to be possessed at this point? It's never been hate. Yeah, it's risky business and you become negative. But in a way, Yang, I kind of agree with her with this situation. I say let's go for it. Because we're fucked either way. I get it. It was good stopping her though first to explain that, because that's something pretty major to explain before you waste one of your precious coins. Dang! So she forcefully induced herself into a negative state. Because that really was the only, yeah, because this was not working. I said, we have to figure something out to deal with Weiss, because this is not working out. And again, despite any negatives that I've had as we've gotten to this point in the season, I still love this opening and ending. Mm-hmm, 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 mm-hmm. All right, let's see how this goes. Yeah. I don't know if more of you entering is logical at this point. Yeah. Yeah, as I was saying, like, also, how far deep they're in, I wouldn't want to disconnect anyone right now. So they only suppressed the nightmare, they didn't get rid of it, and that's why he has the immunity. We have no choice. So there's no room for mistakes here. There's no other way. Yeah, that's regular Grim though. Not these damn nightmares ones. Damn, forcefully letting a nightmare go. It's such a risky thing. Look at that thing. Damn. Of course. Of course, Adam would be the one. But of course, she had strong enough hold over her own self that she didn't have to worry about this just yet. Yeah. Woo! Yo! Oh! Change the door. Good gracious! Oh, this is not good. She fucked that place up. I don't know, like she might have met your match here. Negative Blade. Oh! Blake ain't about no. Actually, no correction. Blake is about everything right now. We knew it was going to be rough. Her raw power, man, she could destroy this whole damn world. She stopped it. She maintained some sense of control. And that should keep them away. What a damn entrance. My girl Blake. Woo! And that's it. Oh, man. I'm actually pretty hyped now. I ain't gonna lie. This is what I was saying. I wanted this episode. I'm ready now. You about to get that ass clapped, wife. Oh, this is not just a costume, my girl. Blake is about that right now. Yo. Oh, man. No, take me back to the action. Okay, the action coming up. The little Isis. Everything. Bruh, can we catch a break? Actually, completely forgot we still got Big Nicholas and them to fight. I got so hyped by Blake's entrance. The animation's fine. It's not perfect, but it's fine. Damn, come on. How you lose the relatives like that, my girl? Heh. Yeah, it's not perfect, but it's fine. I'm fine with this. It's good. Damn, John, stop falling. Absolutely, because that's completely impossible otherwise. Hold on, you think you can actually beat her? Weiss, you have played yourself. And I like you, my girl, but you're not beating this. You're not beating Blake. We're running out of time. Oh, man. Yeah, Blake is gone. Yeah. Oh, man. This is not good. Oh, that's right. Because all this is only possible because of Xion. Yeah. So we are back again. And we can't keep failing. But hopefully, at least this time, Weiss is tied up there with Blake. She's making her question it. Weiss is actually confused because she didn't even think it's been that bad. Oh, did you just realize? She's you now! Also, this shows that Weiss still had a more or less semi-favorable option of Blake. Well, opinion. And it is not happy. Yo. Yo, the nightmare is not happy! Of fucking course. Okay, I got what I wanted this episode, though. I asked for action, and action was given to me. Phenomenal. Oh, man. It was a good episode. Oh, man. Light and shadows. And what is arch? Hey! That's a nice illustration. I need to save this illustration later. I like this illustration. Yes. Okay, so needless to say, and I'm sure y'all could tell, I am happy with what we got. Now, let's start with the animation, because obviously this is going to be a subject of discussion about how they animated it compared to how Rooster Teeth would have animated it in 3D. So let's go ahead and get that out the way. I will acknowledge this was not perfect. It was not perfect. There were a few fight sequences between the transition when Blake and Weiss first interacted with each other and the initial fight sequence there, along when Blake first transformed into Negative Blake, that it seemed that there might have been a little bit of sequence issue. Syncing issues with some of the visuals to where the sound effects were popping in at. I did notice that here and there. However, because it did always come back together, it wasn't a major issue for me, but I'm confident that there are going to be some people who are going to point that out. I was perfectly fine though. This was definitely a step up from what we've had from an animation standpoint when we arrived at this middle point. This is why I said that I wanted them to bring it back, because this was really, in my opinion, where some of the strong suits of this new animation were going to be at. Again, as a fan of 2D over 3D, naturally I have a soft spot for it, and it was good. It was not perfect, but it was good, and I don't, at the end of the day, have any major gripes with it all overall. I feel that it did mesh with what was established in the earlier stages of the show. So there might be some people that are going to bitch and moan a bit more about it, but that person isn't going to be me. I'm fine with it. I'm perfectly fine and satisfied with what we got from that standpoint. Story. Okay, so here's the issue I have here. And this issue happened because we're now in episode 10, and now this is kicking in. We got this big multi-layer showdown that's now transpiring here. We have obviously the situation with the fact that the nightmare Grim that we've now put in Blake is rapidly growing, which means our timetable is completely shrinking. We've completely, ignored the fact, more or less, about the fact that Xion is the whole reason that any of this gets to continue to be held together. Because if Xion loses any more of their power than they already have, and they've already run through this now, we're on 3 times now, we're running out of time there. We, again, do not know what the consequences of this is going to be, especially since Blake now has taken on the Grim voluntarily within herself. We have the grand declaration that Blake has made to Weiss about how she feels, because, of course, she's now in her nightmare mode, and Weiss is completely confused now. And one of the big things that I think a lot of people are going to say is that things moved too fast, that we went from things basically being at snail speed, especially with the points of establishing why Weiss has this attachment to the girls, how she really feels about them, and now things are really picking up now. And this is why I say that my 7 is probably going to have to stay. It's not going to go any lower, and there is a potential now, because I was satisfied enough with this episode for it to go up to a 7.5. It's doubtful it'll be an 8 or higher, though, just because there are glaring issues with really storyboarding. I want to say between my concerns with the story itself and storyboarding, the storyboarding, the way that things were arranged, is really what hurt this show in the mid-season part of it. And that is where a vast majority of the 7s and the 6s and even below are coming from. Negative Blake was fucking amazing. Excuse my cussing. Amazing. Absolutely love Negative Blake. Has been the most exciting part of this season so far by leaps and bounds. Absolutely love it. I actually forgot how much I love Blake until Negative Blake came to be. Absolutely loved it. And I am biased to Blake in general, a lot of the time. So Negative Blake, ooh, love it. So the entire transition to her taking over with Yang, like what the hell, that entire transition there was absolutely amazing. And like I said, despite some of the syncing issues with the sound effects, it was wonderful. But storyboarding has been one of the major weaknesses with this entire adaptation, even more so than some of the sloppiness that they did with the animation toward the mid areas of this show. And it happens that way. There was a lot riding on this project to revitalize RWBY. And when the season is all said and done, I still will say this each episode until we conclude on episode 12 on the 18th, that I do believe that this has given a much needed boost for RWBY to return to being known, to being loved, to being criticized, whatever it's going to be. But people, more or less, are talking about RWBY again. And so that means that as long as this show executed that, the show has accomplished what it set out to do. The West and the East think of how this adaptation have gone in two completely different ways, though. I was talking with my best friend over in Japan about this, and she's not a fan of RWBY, but she actually is watching this adaptation. And Japan, more or less is eating it up. There are a lot of great voice actors that have some of our characters here. And obviously, because this is being ran on the Japanese end of things, there's going to be more of a bias over there than here. The West has continued to find every single fault with this show and every single reason to give it a 5 or below. That's just kind of what's happened. Your diehard Rooster Teeth people that are allegiant to Rooster Teeth, they are forever going to hate this adaptation. I think some of them have even been rape bombing the show and intentionally giving it a 2 just because of the fact that they feel that Monty would not have wanted this. And again, that's another conversation I'm not getting into in this. There have been plenty of conversations about what Monty may or may not have wanted, but the reality is the man is dead, and let the man rest in peace and stop bringing his name up every single waking moment that you want to. It gets real petty and really old really quickly. There were plenty of video footage and plenty of interviews on record at the time that it would have been that it was an absolute dream for him for a Japanese animation studio to be able to pick this up and animate it in the way they have. I feel my personal ways about that, but the reality is talking about a man who is no longer here to speak for himself is stupid, and we need to stop that crap. Let that man rest in peace and stop using his name every 5 seconds because of how you feel about the fact that Shaft picked it up. It's stupid, and I'm tired of it. But putting that aside, I have also acknowledged that I truly do believe that there was a lot hanging on the balance of the success of this season and the storyboarding issues and how they wanted to introduce this new Nightmare Grim and arrange this. These are thoughts that were going to happen. It obviously is enough of an issue that there will be a considerable score reduction for that, and it's primarily the reason why I have to put it down to a 7. But regardless of all of that, I personally have still enjoyed this edition of RWBY. And I have given it a 7, and believe it or not, a 7 is one of the highest scores, again, that I've given anything in RWBY, because almost all the volumes, with the exception of maybe the first and second volume, only got a 6, or in times lower than that, because the story just really off-put me. And again, it might be that now that I've watched this, I'll rewatch it, and perhaps I'll have more of a better opinion with it, but this is still a try. And again, there is still a chance for it to squeeze another 0.5 point out, depending how we wrap up these last 2 episodes. So definitely excited with where we ended this at. I think that this is the excitement that the season needed after kind of hitting a lull that it's hit the last few episodes. And I definitely look forward to seeing how this showdown is going to, what conclusion we're going to reach here. RWBY is now back taking on the Nightmare Grim, which we now know will be for the final time. There will be no coming back from this if she fails there. If Blake fails with getting Weiss under control, then there's no hope for us. And, well, none of the volumes would exist because, girls would be dead. So, which obviously we know the girls are not dead because there wouldn't be all these volumes that we have now. So yeah, I'm happy with the episode. I'm happy with the episode. It wasn't perfect, but it was definitely the best episode we've gotten in several episodes now, and quite possibly one of the best episodes we've gotten of the season so far. And I hope you guys did find some level of enjoyment from it. So that's it. That is my reaction. Thanks so much for watching. If you did like the reaction, please consider liking and subscribing to the episode and the channel. And if you want to be one of the first to be notified when a new reaction becomes available, hit the bell icon. I will see all of you lovely people next week on the 11th of September for our preseason finale, episode 11 of RWBY Queendom, the title of which I... Did I get the title? Did they post the title yet? No, they haven't posted. Well, it showed. I forgot what the title was. But I will see all of you for the 11th episode next week. Until that time, catch you.